Hey guys, welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. I actually just came across a lot of new information regarding the C8 mid-engine Corvette. Lots of good information here, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the first image here, this slide was actually played at a West Coast dinner on Saturday evening during the Corvette racing team stop at Laguna Seca. This was a slide that was put up for basically asking the audience if there was any additional questions about anything that had been talked about. And they specifically put at the bottom, they didn't want any questions about the C8. Now, what this tells me is they are basically acknowledging and even partially confirming the existence of the C8. Otherwise, they wouldn't have necessarily called it a C8. They could have said no questions about any future Corvettes, or they could have worded it 100 different ways, but they specifically called this the C8, knowing this is likely what the car is going to be called, what they're going to call it, and that it is in fact coming. This is pretty interesting considering the Corvette chief engineer Tadge Juechter was there as well. There was a lot of people that were there in attendance that actually speculated, because of all the big names from GM being there, that there was going to be some conversation about the C8 Corvette. So the fact that they put that up there really tells me they know they're making this. They know it's a hot item, and they didn't want to have to necessarily get into it yet because it's still too early for them to release any information on it. Now, I also came across on the Corvette blogger here a couple different renderings of the new C8 mid-engine Corvette, all obviously with the zebra wrap removed and kind of photoshopped to show some different colors. Honestly, this looks pretty good. This looks like exactly what I would imagine that car looks like under that wrap. There's actually a picture here of one comparing it to a Ferrari, and there's definitely a similar styling there, which obviously, in case anybody didn't already know this, it's definitely going to be mid-engine. I mean, you could tell by the dimensions of the car and everything. But these look pretty interesting to me because, like I said, they really do look a lot like what the car looks like now, only with actual paint on it, and it looks pretty neat from the side. I mean, it's definitely interesting looking. We've all talked about the AERO possibilities with the car before. There's a kind of a new one that's floating around out there that kind of suggests that with the new C8 that there is going to be a full convertible option. I know we kind of talked on the last video about how the pictures of the C8 kind of suggested that it was going to have a removable roof like the target top on the current C7, but this actually suggests it's probably that there's also going to be a convertible option. So this is actually a patent for active AERO again, but this is specific to the convertible. It actually goes on the top of the windshield after the convertible top is down, and it can raise or lower to adjust how the air travels over the windshield and through the car. So, I mean, right off the bat, obviously it's going to have performance aspects to it, but this would also potentially help with not creating a huge vortex pounding wind sound inside the car with the convertible top down. So this could be an interesting addition to the car as well. Now, this last one here is what's really interesting to me. It looks to me like GM has filed a patent for a two-stage turbocharger. So basically what that really is suggesting is that they're going to have a big turbo and a small turbo, or at least a high pressure and a low pressure turbo, which typically goes hand in hand with one being bigger, one being smaller. Now, the biggest reason they would do something like that is if you take a high horsepower engine and throw a huge turbo on it, yes, it makes a lot of power, but people complain about the thing called quote-unquote turbo lag, which is, you're in the car accelerating and you're at 20 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM. The turbos don't really start to spool and really start to deliver that power until higher RPM, higher speeds. So with this is basically going to allow you to have that low pressure, smaller turbo ready to go right off the bat, and then as the horsepower or the RPM and the speeds get higher and higher, that kind of fades off, and then in comes the bigger, higher pressure turbocharger to kind of take over from there. So basically, throughout the entire RPM range, you would not have any quote-unquote turbo lag. So this is a great idea. This is an awesome setup, and a lot of people have tried to negate this in the past with like twin scroll turbos, smaller turbos capable of higher horsepower, things like that. But this is an interesting take on this, and this really could play into the whole rumors of a twin turbo setup on this car, because technically this is a twin turbo setup, but they're not both spooling at the same time. There's one for low RPM range and one for a higher RPM range. So this could really factor into some high horsepower engines in this car. I'm still not real sold on that rear spoiler though. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know what you thought about these new renderings. Does that look like a car you might want to buy? Honestly, the renderings for me, they look pretty close to what this car is probably going to look like, because, I mean, we can see so much of the car now with most of the wrap off, that these cars being photoshopped to show, you know, what the color is going to look like of the car without the zebra wrap. It's pretty close, if I had to guess. But go ahead and comment down below. Give me a big thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe if you haven't. Guys, I'll see you in the next upload.